All right, I'm just going to go over some introductory information for your assignment that you're going to start to work on today. And some of this I went over with some of the students that were here on Friday, but I'm just going to go over it in just a little bit more detail and just really focus on some areas that you want to incorporate into your research project. So the first thing, as you go through this presentation, is I have a slide on respecting individuals' beliefs, and evolution can be a sensitive topic, and everybody comes from different religious backgrounds and beliefs, and so I am going to teach this unit from the perspective that it is a theory, and that when you discuss the idea of evolution, we're really just studying the components of this theory, and I'm presenting it in that fashion. So if you discuss the idea of evolution with others, that you can understand the components of it and be able to discuss your position in evolution from a little bit more of an informed position. So again, I'm never going to mark you on whether you believe the theory or not. It's about just introducing the idea of the concepts and be able to incorporate those concepts to a meaningful discussion. The next few slides are really just dealing with some background information about scientists. I'll let you read through those on your own, and they're really just giving you some background information that Darwin kind of built his ideas from. And again, I'm not going to look at specific dates or even really the the names of specific scientists, but just the idea of the kind of research that was present at that time, some of the thoughts that were at that time, which will help you better understand where Darwin's theory comes from. And so really the whole idea, or the main focus of this unit, is really just exploring Darwin's theory and the components of his theory. So his components are really broken down into 5 parts. Each part is defined in the next slides. When you're doing your research, you want to incorporate some of these ideas, and some of these ideas will be specific to your topic, and you do want to relate back to those different components of his theory. So, if you're going to talk about how, the survival of the fittest is that's part of your theory, then you want to fit that under, natural selection. If you're talking about everything coming from a common ancestry, then you want to focus on common descent. So you want to incorporate which one of these actually fits into your idea. So if you read through this information, it further defines those components. So it talks about how evolution exists. So again, it talks about how scientists believe that there was evolution, but definitely the processes are a little bit different from scientist to scientist. Talks about common descent. Again, you can review that. You're coming out from very few ancestors, so again, this is probably a controversial topic at that time, and that you're going from a very simple organism to more complex organisms over time. Gradualism, again, at that time was a little bit controversial. Darwin thought this happened over a long period of time, which was different than a lot of scientists at that time. And so, again, that was somewhat controversial, especially from different religious perspectives, because it definitely pegged the Earth as a much older than what they thought at that time. Population speciation, so specific traits, that's what that's referring to. So if you refer to your textbook on page 288 to 289, there is some examples of giraffes, and really it's the example of giraffes eventually grew long necks to feed further and further up trees, and they're really just adapting to their environment. So population speciation is really focusing on organisms adapting to their environment in order to survive. Natural selection, again, this was the most unique part Again, this is where you get the survival of the fittest, or what's termed as succeed or become extinct. And so, different genetic traits were more suited for different environments, and that's why certain organisms ended up surviving and others eventually died off. Now we can focus more on the natural selection process, and again, this is now looking just at the natural selection. So when we talk about natural selection, we're talking about individuals are variable, so really looking at genetic variability. Some variations can be passed on from generation to generation. Again, that's talking more about the genetics at that time. In order for natural selection to occur, the history of the Earth must be long, which again is controversial because of different religious beliefs. And more offspring are produced than can survive, so looking at multiple offsprings, which again links to genetic variability. And survival and reproduction are not random. There is a specific process that goes on, and there's a specific mechanism that allows them to survive. Now, this last slide, which I explained to the class on Friday, goes over some topics that you have to fill in. So if you haven't done this already, it's important that you go through these definitions in your textbook and just be able to explain these definitions and be able to incorporate these definitions into your research project. So it's really just background terminology, introductory terminology that will help you out in explaining some of your topics in your research. So this is definitely, if you haven't done this already, you need to go through this slideshow. It is on a previous post, and you need to go through this and complete the work, complete the background information before you start your actual research project. Now, as for your research, this is the post that was just put on yesterday. This is the kind of the outline of your research and the groups that are going to do each topic. The first slide is really going over what you're going to, or what you're trying to focus on in terms of your research. I want you to think of this as an opportunity to look at your specific topic and think of ways of how you could explain it through examples and how it relates to the theory of evolution. So I've given you some specific areas that you want to focus on. So you definitely want to start off with defining what is it. So just the general definition of what it is, kind of how it fits in to the theory. And again, you can do this through just a general definition or through some diagrams or tables or graphs, whatever suits your topic, but you want to focus on trying to simplifying the topic so people can understand what you are trying to explain. Then you want to focus on how and again why it works, or like why do they think this theory actually is effective and how it actually links into the progression of organisms and the development of organisms over time. And again, this doesn't have to be all written out. This is something that you can look at and try to understand, and then explain the concept through the idea of diagrams and examples and so on. Then you want to explain the outcome. Like in the end, how does this actually work? What's the end game of this particular process? And how do they know this actually works? So again, try to come up with some supporting research that shows that this process actually exists and actually works. The last thing is you want to go through and think about how it supports this theory of evolution. Again, this is where you have to go back to those flow charts that I was talking about previously. So again, all the components of the theory of evolution, or looking at the specific components of natural selection, so there's 5 components of that. So you want to link it back to that and think about how it actually furthers this idea of evolution, or supports the idea of evolution. The second point, or the last section you want to focus on, you want to keep providing lots of examples. So a minimum of 2 or 3 examples of your topic. Again, you're only going to find maybe 1 in the textbook, and so this is where you're going to have to do some additional research and find some, again, examples that you can understand and ones that you can explain to the class, and so just help clarify the whole process, and again, how it kind of weaves into that idea of the theory of evolution. I am not marking your actual presentation. It's an opportunity for you to research a specific topic as a group, come up with a way how to teach the topic. Once you've done your presentation, then we're going to open it up and ask questions, and I will try to clarify ideas. And so once we're finished that topic that you're researching, you'll have a better understanding of how it fits in, and then we'll correct any misconceptions that there might be or any questions that you may have about the topic, and then we'll move on to that next presentation. In the end, the idea is once we've gone through our 8 topics, you'll be able to use those topics to answer some questions on the unit test in the end, which is what I'll explain when I come back. Topic-wise, you're going to present your information using Google Slides and create a presentation of your findings. And again, your presentation in the end, generally just 5 or 10 minutes in length. The rest of the slides are just really going out or outlining the topics that you're going to cover and who's going to cover those topics. So I've put you into groups, and I've given you some textbook information, and that's a good starting point, and then you can do some additional research as you're going through your 2 research periods. So you will have today's class and also Thursday's class to research your topic and come up with a way to how to present it.